Welcome to the Deep Dive. Our mission here really is to be your guide. We take insights from top security experts, frontline analysts, and distill what you really need to know. Today, we're doing just that. We're diving deep into the cybersecurity threat landscape predicted for next year. We'll break down the 9 most disruptive trends we expect to see dominating 2025.
And these aren't just, guesses pulled out of thin air. This analysis, it's built on trends we can already see happening today. It gives you a pretty realistic picture of what organizations, big and small, are likely up against. If there's one big theme connecting everything, it's, acceleration. Just sheer speed.
Zippy.
Yeah. Threats are faster to execute, they're easier for attackers to get their hands on, and honestly, they're getting much more sophisticated across the board.
Acceleration is definitely the key word. Okay. And before we really unpack these 9 trends, let's quickly thank our sponsor. Welcome to vpod.ai. This deep dive is sponsored by Stonefly. They're leaders in enterprise storage, backup, and disaster recovery, AI storage, and cloud solutions. So if you're looking for secure storage, maybe ransomware-proof storage, Stonefly actually sells air-gapped and immutable options. You can contact sales at stonefly.com to schedule a demo. Okay, so let's unpack this. We're going to kick off with what feels like the single biggest game changer hitting defense strategies right now. And that game changer, no surprise really, is how threat actors are increasingly using artificial intelligence, AI, and this goes way beyond just automating simple tasks, right? We're seeing AI actively used to enhance and speed up pretty much every stage of an attack. What does that actually look like on the ground for organizations?
Well, what's really striking is how AI kind of does 2 things at once.
Yeah.
It lowers the barrier for attackers to scale up their operations, and it raises the sophistication level. We're seeing AI enable really advanced phishing and vishing attacks, like highly convincing ones.
Vishing, the voice phishing.
Exactly. To be specific, AI lets attackers synthesize custom voice patterns almost instantly from just tiny audio samples. This completely transforms things like CEO fraud. It makes vishing scalable in a way it never was before. Imagine getting a call and the voice is, undeniably your boss or some senior exec demanding an urgent wire transfer. That's AI making it happen.
Wow. And it's not just voice, is it? There's the visual side, too. The use of deepfakes is climbing like crazy, specifically for identity theft, fraud, and this is critical, bypassing security checks. So if your authentication relies on visual checks or maybe voice biometrics, AI offers a new way around that.
Precisely. And the threat isn't limited to just financial crime. We also have to look at how AI is being used geopolitically in information operations, or I.O.
Right, influencing public opinion and narratives.
Yeah. What's concerning there is how AI lets these state-backed actors or groups affiliated with them just massively scale up their content creation. Think influence campaigns, especially around things like elections or, major global events.
That ability to just pump out narratives at scale is huge. When we talk information ops, we really mean deliberate attempts to sway how people think.
Exactly. And I.O. actors will definitely leverage AI to make their content way more persuasive, more context-aware. They're getting better at creating and managing these inauthentic personas, fake social media profiles, fake news sites, even generating commentary from made-up experts. These fakes look more legitimate, more consistent than ever. It makes it so much harder for defenders and even the social media platforms themselves to tell real discourse from these fabricated influence campaigns.
So they can hide in plain sight more easily?
Pretty much. AI helps generate narratives that seem plausible enough that you'd need deep forensic analysis to actually debunk them.
Okay, so AI is refining the entry points, maximizing social engineering. But let's talk about the end goal for many attackers. Experts noted that despite all the high-tech AI talk, the money engine hasn't really changed. It's still ransomware. It just stubbornly remains the most disruptive, most widespread form of cybercrime.
It really does. And we're way past the simple encrypt your files, now pay up stage. Ransomware and this whole complex approach of multifaceted extortion will keep hitting all sorts of sectors everywhere. We're talking triple, even quadruple extortion tactics now. Meaning it's not just about encrypting data anymore. Attackers threaten to leak sensitive data publicly and disrupt your business operations, and maybe even tip off regulators about a breach all at the same time. They multiply the pressure points, which, frankly, increases the odds that the victim will pay.
That definitely escalates things, changes the whole calculation for a company. But for those big extortion demands to work, they need valuable data and that initial way in. What's enabling that part?
Right. You have to connect ransomware back to the steps that make it possible. Infostealer malware is still a massive problem because it's what facilitates those big data breaches and account compromises. It fuels the whole cybercrime economy.
So the infostealers are the reconnaissance troops, almost.
You can say that. They're off with the first foot in the door. They harvest credentials, browser cookies, access tokens, all that stuff. Then those harvested credentials get sold on dark web markets. That basically gives initial access brokers the keys they need to launch those bigger, more targeted extortion campaigns later on.
And this ties directly into what the analysis called the identity crisis. Compromised identities are the fuel, okay, but where's the actual vulnerability? This is where the complexity of modern IT really comes in, isn't it? Compromised identities in these complex hybrid environments pose huge risks.
Oh, absolutely huge.
Yeah.
When we say hybrid environments, we mean how identities are now spread all over the place. You got your traditional on-premise systems, then cloud platforms like AWS or Azure, plus countless software as a service apps. The old idea of a perimeter, like a firewall around the office, that's pretty much gone. It's completely decentralized now.
So if the perimeter is everywhere and nowhere, how does a security team even defend that kind of sprawl? What specifically about that sprawl makes identity compromise easier or faster?
The core problem is unified control, or the lack of it. Think about it. If one identity, maybe just one set of login credentials, is used across 20 different cloud services, compromising that one point can give an attacker visibility, maybe even movement, across your whole enterprise architecture.
Okay.
And security controls often don't work the same way or aren't even applied consistently across all those different environments. This lack of central visibility and enforcement, it drastically speeds up an attacker's ability to move laterally, escalate their privileges, often without being noticed.
That's fascinating. Okay, so recap. AI makes getting in easier, infostealers grab the keys, and this decentralized identity structure makes moving around inside simpler for attackers. We're also seeing clear signs of where the money is flowing. These financial opportunities are pushing attackers towards new targets.
That's right. The analysis noted that Web3 and cryptocurrency organizations are going to be increasingly targeted.
Yeah.
Specialized crypto heists.
Why them specific?
Well, while the tech itself can be complex, the attraction is pretty simple. Digital assets have high value. And in some cases, the security, maturity, or the regulatory oversight might not be as strong as in traditional banking. Attackers see it as a high-reward environment, potentially high volume too, for straight-up theft.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit now and bring in the nation-state angle. That's always critical in the threat landscape. Experts mentioned the Big Four are still incredibly active, but their focuses differ quite a bit.
Right. That Big Four designation usually refers to the major state actors: Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. Their activity is constant, yeah, but their goals tend to line up pretty clearly with their national geopolitical interests. China, for instance, still seems heavily focused on espionage operations, particularly stealing intellectual property for economic advantage. Russia often leans more towards disruptive cyber attacks and those large-scale information operations we talked about, aiming to undermine rivals.
And Iran and North Korea, similar motivations there?
Not exactly the same. North Korea is quite uniquely focused on state-sponsored cybercrime, basically using large-scale digital heists to fund the regime and get around international sanctions. Iran often uses its cyber capabilities for more strategic disruption, sometimes regional influence operations, maybe targeting critical infrastructure or even political dissidents abroad. Understanding why they do what they do helps defenders anticipate where attacks might come from.
Got it. So we've covered the actors, the targets, the how. Now let's talk about getting the tools to do all this. A really critical trend impacting everyone is the democratization of cyber capabilities. It sounds like tools that used to be state secrets are now just out there.
Yeah, it's a major shift in the landscape. Think of it like this. Maybe decades ago, building some high-tech piece of machinery needed secret blueprints and massive, expensive industrial factories. Now, sophisticated tools like 3D printers are available to almost anyone. It's similarly in cyber. Advanced capabilities, things like ransomware kits, ready-made exploit chains, even some of those AI tools we discussed, they're increasingly available through cybercrime as a service platforms. For sale.
Cybercrime as a service. So what does that actually mean for defenders? What are the implications?
Well, the big implication is that this increased access to powerful tools dramatically lowers the barrier to entry for less skilled actors. The pool of potential attackers just gets much, much wider. You don't necessarily need to be part of some elite state-funded hacking group anymore to launch a really damaging attack. a motivated, maybe mid-level criminal group can essentially rent or buy access to top-tier tools. That just ramps up the threat level for everybody. That's a pretty staggering thought. So democratization widens the attacker pool, and then there's the final piece from the threat list. Just pure speed. The time it takes to exploit vulnerabilities keeps shrinking. That window between finding out about a flaw and seeing it actively attacked just gets smaller and smaller.
Yes, that creates a kind of perfect storm, doesn't it? You've got more attackers, they have easier access to better tools, and the time defenders have to react is constantly shrinking. And crucially, the report also notes the range of targeted vendors is getting wider. It's not just the huge software companies anymore. All this puts immense pressure on security teams. If maybe 5 years ago they had a month to patch something critical, now, maybe it's a week, maybe less. It leads to this state of a perpetually exposed attack surface.
So if we tie all this together, connect the dots, the big picture for organizations really seems to be this constant battle against speed and managing identity compromise. What's the key strategic takeaway from this accelerated threat landscape? I think organizations need to prepare not just for the threats they already know, but for the acceleration of the whole attack cycle. That acceleration is fueled by AI, by readily available tools. The focus really has to shift. It can't just be about reacting to threats anymore. It needs to be about building fundamental resilience within the organization. Resilience that can withstand these faster, more sophisticated attacks.
The analysis also touched on some areas for future focus, things defenders need to start thinking about now, even if they aren't the top immediate threat today. One that caught my eye was post-quantum cryptography. Why worry about that now if large-scale quantum computers are still mostly theoretical?
It's about protecting today's sensitive data for the long haul, future-proofing it. The math underlying our current standard encryption methods, it could theoretically be broken by powerful quantum computers down the road. So organizations handling data that needs to stay secret for a very long time, think government secrets, maybe sensitive medical data they need to start planning the transition to post-quantum crypto now. It's complex. But the goal is to ensure that data stolen or intercepted today can't just be decrypted 10 or 20 years from now when the technology matures.
Makes sense. Protect now against future decryption. And the analysis also stressed needing unique regional insights, like for JPAC and EMEA, a reminder that this threat acceleration is happening everywhere.
Absolutely. The local geopolitical situation, the regulatory environment, they definitely shape defenses. For instance, in the JPAC region, you often see a bigger focus on supply chain risks because of all the integrated manufacturing and logistics there. In EMA, things like data privacy rules, GDPR being the big one, add another layer of complexity when you're dealing with those multifaceted extortion threats. Preparation really has to be tailored.
This has been a really thorough breakdown of the threats organizations are likely facing next year. A lot to think about.
Yeah, if I had to give a final takeaway, it's pretty straightforward. The best defense against these accelerating trends, especially AI-driven deepfakes, tricky geopolitical I/O, and that ever-present ransomware, it really comes down to focusing relentlessly on the fundamentals. Build resilience, protect your key digital assets rigorously, and get a real handle on your decentralized identity management. That's crucial.
Okay, so final thought for you, our listener. What stands out most to you from all this? Considering the democratization of tools, that shrinking defense window, the rise of AI, what do you think the biggest low-tech human vulnerability will be in 2025, even with all this high-tech AI around? Something to mull over.
And before we sign off, just one more word from our sponsor. We really appreciate Stonefly supporting this deep dive. They're leaders in enterprise storage, backup and disaster recovery, AI storage, and cloud solutions. So if you're looking for secure, truly ransomware-proof storage, remember Stonefly offers air-gapped and immutable storage. That's essential for protecting those key digital assets we were just talking about. You can contact sales@stonefly.com to schedule a demo.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll talk to you next time.